Hi everyone, I'm Laura DiPaolo, a Florida native and realtor here in Central Florida. And today we're going to talk about something that most people don't love thinking about, but it's something we really should, and that's probate. Now, before you click away thinking this sounds about as exciting as reading a tax manual, stick with me for a minute. If you own a home, plan to inherit one, or have aging parents or family members with property, probate can directly affect what happens to that real estate. And the reality is, many families don't realize how complicated things can get until they're already in the middle of it. So today, I'm going to break down the two main types of probate in Florida, the difference between testate and intestate, how tools like ladybird deeds and trusts can help, and how to know which probate process might apply to your situation. Let's dive in. What is probate? Probate is the legal process that happens after someone passes away to make sure that their debts are handled and their assets go to the right people. Assets can include things like real estate, bank accounts, vehicles, investments, and personal property. When a home is involved, probate determines who legally has the authority to sell, transfer, or keep the property. And this is where things can get interesting, because not all probate situations are the same. Before we talk about the probate types, we need to understand two terms you'll hear frequently. Testate. This means the person had a valid will when they passed away. The will outlines who inherits what, who manages the estate, and how assets should be distributed. Intestate. This means the person did not have a will. When that happens, Florida law determines who inherits the assets, typically following a family hierarchy such as spouse, children, parents, and then the siblings. And as you can probably imagine, this is where family situations can get sometimes complicated. In Florida, there are two primary probate processes: summary administration, or administrative. This is the shorter and simpler version of probate. It typically applies when the estate is worth less than $75,000, not including the homestead property, or the person passed away more than 2 years ago. Summary administration usually means less paperwork, no personal representative formally managing the estate, and a quicker overall process. Sometimes it could be completed in a few weeks to a few months, depending on the circumstances. This process works best when the estate is relatively simple, everyone agrees, and there are none to minimum creditor issues. Formal administration is the more traditional probate process, and it's what most people picture when they hear the word probate. This is typically required when the estate is larger, there are multiple assets involved, there may be creditor claims, or there are more complex family situations. In this case, a court appoints a personal representative, sometimes called an executor. Their role is to identify all assets, notify the creditors, pay any valid debts, and distribute the remaining assets to the heirs. Formal probate can take 6 months to over a year or even longer, depending on the situation. And when real estate is involved, the personal representative is usually the person who has the legal authority to sell the property. Let me share a quick real-life example of why having the right professionals involved in probate can make a huge difference. I had a client who did what most people do. They went online and searched for a highly rated attorney to help with the probate process. But after nearly a year of frustration, the case just wasn't moving along the way they expected. When I became involved, I learned of the frustrations and movement of the probate process, and some things mentioned just weren't quite lining up to me. So my first question to the attorney was about creditor notifications, because in probate, there's a 90-day waiting period after creditors are notified to allow time for any claims to surface. The attorney told me we had the green light to sell the home, but they needed a 60-day close for them to handle the final couple of items with the court. So we moved forward. I listed the property, we had a great response from buyers, and we quickly went under contract. Only around a month into the contract, we discovered the home actually wasn't ready to sell yet because that creditor notification had not even been submitted to the court, which meant there were other items not even handled yet either. So suddenly, we had to delay the closing for 90 days, even though we were already several weeks into the contract. My client was still grieving, and now they're dealing with a delayed sale and a lot of truly unnecessary stress. To make things more complicated, the home was in a small town where it wasn't easy to track down the proper court documents for additional research. Fortunately, I was able to connect my client with one of the probate attorneys I closely work with, and she jumped in immediately. Together, we were able to navigate the situation, protect the transaction, and ultimately save my client from potentially losing $40,000 because the buyers wanted to renegotiate due to the delay. Now, the good news is there are ways to plan ahead that may help avoid probate altogether, at least when it comes to real estate. One tool commonly used in Florida is called a ladybird deed, also known as an enhanced life estate deed. This allows a homeowner to keep full control of the property while they're alive, name a beneficiary who automatically receives the property after they pass away. The big benefit here, the property bypasses probate entirely, which can save families time, money, and stress. Another option is placing the property into a living trust. Think of a trust as a container that holds assets. Instead of the individual owning the property directly, the trust owns it. When the owner passes away, the trustee simply follows the instructions within the trust to distribute the assets. Just like with ladybird deeds, assets inside a trust typically avoid probate. Trusts are often used when someone owns multiple properties, there are complex family dynamics, or someone wants more control over how assets are distributed. Many of us are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and we don't necessarily love thinking about estate planning. But planning ahead can mean the difference between a smoother transaction for your family or a complicated legal process that can take months or even years. And when real estate is involved, delays impact things like property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and the ability to sell the home when needed. Because probate can be complicated. I work closely with experienced probate attorneys who help guide families through the legal side of the process. My role is helping families understand their real estate options, prepare homes for sale when necessary, and navigate the market when probate is happening. Many of the families I help are already going through a difficult time emotionally, so having the right guidance and support can make a huge difference. If you have questions about probate and real estate, selling a home during probate, or planning ahead with things like ladybird deeds or trusts, please feel free to reach out. And if you found this helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. Because while probate may not be the most exciting topic, understanding it can save your family a lot of stress down the road.